Randy, how are you?
Hi, Jerry.
Ben was saying a little bit earlier that he was surprised or is surprised at how his arm strength has come back. In practice, do you pay particular attention to maybe any deep throws or sideline throws and monitor and do you feel the same way?
I do. And I feel the same way like when we finish practice, because I'm always going to go up and ask him, one, how do you feel? And you know that he's preparing pre-practice, and then post-practice he goes through routines also too, just physical things that he always has been doing. Um, and that's been really unique to see. I like the idea that from a script standpoint, and we're attempting to get things done, he hasn't wanted to shy away from any of those, what you might call a deep opportunity, if it was to present itself. And we've taken several.
Dale Lawley, DK.
Randy, you've been with Ben for a long time now, and do you find yourself? He talked about how he's nervous about that first game, and even nervous now in practice. Have you gotten over those nerves of watching him go through this, and are you at the point now where you just okay, he's ready to go play a game?
Well, I'm always going to be nervous for our guys because I know how much they put into it. And in this case, you know how much he put into getting back to it. And, it's interesting as, we had that first evening practice, and it was a practice. I mean, we've been practicing. Sometimes we have a few periods what might be quote unquote a little liver than normal, but I remember him coming off right after the first period, and he says, my knees were shaking. And I looked at him and I said, what? He said, yeah, and there was only just the media was in the stands. So it was interesting, but it was the first time he had kind of officially kind of been back. We went through that process of pregame, and it was at night, and so I guess you would expect that. How much he cares and how much he's put in to get back, and hence those feelings are going to happen. I know, like in any football game, if you don't have somewhat of a jitter, if you don't have somewhat of an anxiousness, you're probably in the wrong sport. It usually, disappears about after play one.
Brooke Pryor, ESPN.
Hey, Randy, when we were talking with Ben, he mentioned that it's going to be really hard for Chase Claypool to sneak up on some people now because of how well he's done so far. And he mentioned that Chase isn't asking a lot of questions because they're already on the same page as far as communicating with hand signals, and he's where Ben wants him to be. How have you noticed their rapport developing and noticed Chase just developing as a player through training camp?
Well, I think the unique thing is you said developing rapport, and sometimes that's hard to do. When you even have an off season, with young players. I think the thing that's made this exciting this early would be the fact of Chase's availability. I mean, he hasn't missed a snap. He's willing, he's conditioned, he's physical, he is intelligent. So it gives him a chance to get even more action, more opportunities, and I think that that relationship is starting to grow, and that's exciting because that isn't an easy thing to do early for a young wide receiver, and having had many really good wide receivers come through here, he's right in that same mode of work, shut up, and he basically that's how he attacks his day, and it's so neat.
Jeff Hawthorne, 93.7.
Hey, Randy, along those lines, have you been able to develop any roles for your receivers and try to figure out some of the depth that you have there, and how do you go about doing that in these situations?
Well, we tried to put them in as many situations as possible. We've emphasized situational football in most every drill that we do. We probably just don't put the football out and just say, okay, it's first down, let's go. There's been a situation attached to basically everything. We're trying to grab those reps that we probably missed throughout mini camps and OTAs, and putting them in those situational, game-changing type moments every day. I think, again, I go back to somewhat availability. We've had some maintenance things with some of the guys. We've had some guys that have missed a day or two here or there, and I think that might slow down that opportunity for that individual. But as a group, I'm excited about the flow of all of those guys being able to play most of the positions. You like to. I never really. I personally don't like to put someone in a box and say that you're a outside guy, you can't play inside, or vice versa. We put them, all the guys, in a lot of different positions to kind of showcase what their skill set might allow them to do, and hence that only helps us being a little more versatile. I like where we're at this point. I would be more enthusiastic if and when we can get that whole crew back together, practicing together on the field.
Mark Cavalli, The Athletic.
Hey, Randy, I was just wondering how much you missed maybe Mike Munchak last year in terms of run game coordinator, and is there anybody this year you can rely on or look to help out in that regard?
Well, yeah, I think what happens is, Sean and Clem are together for one more year, and I think that consistency is going to show this year. I know that having Coach Canada as another experienced coach in the room it is only going to help. Coach Faulkner's 1 year, in the system and being able to communicate. I just think that, as a group, we were fairly young there. And if you just mentioned taking out Coach Munchak, that's he's hard to replace in general. He's a dear friend of mine and respected colleague. And but I do believe that as a group, I do see the just like you would talk about players. You see a staff that's having time to mesh and be more coordinated and be more open to other ideas and possible ideas and the best things that we could possibly do to put our guys in the best chance to have success.
Will Graves, Associated Press.
Hey, Randy.
Will,
real quick, has Ben's availability surprised you and allowed you to sort of deviate from maybe what the original plan was for him? He talked about how his schedule, he's throwing more than he has in the last couple of years, and sort of piggybacking off that, in terms of building a rapport with guys, I mean, I wanted to ask him this, but I didn't get a chance to. Does he maybe intentionally throw some tough balls to these younger guys to kind of feel them out and see where they're at?
Well, there's no doubt that he does that. It generally happens a lot in individual periods. You guys get a chance to watch us practice. I would think that there isn't going to be many spot on balls when we're throwing routes on air, unless you're working with somebody you've worked a lot with. I think back to Heath Miller. He's going to throw a perfect ball to Heath so he doesn't have to make him bend, twist in year 10, 11, whatever years it were towards the end. But generally, when you're talking about new players, you'd like to see what that catch radius is. You like to see, how high can he go? How far out can you put a ball? Can he maneuver and keep his body control on a back shoulder type throw or slow a receiver down? And be able to, have that confidence that ball doesn't always have to be perfect. Quite frankly, they're not all going to be perfect. They're going to be in an area, hopefully, as far as possible away from another color jersey, but in the vicinity that a receiver is able to make a play and comfortably understand why that ball was put there. So, that happens all the time. I do think that, and I teased Ben a little bit today because, you've got some moving parts that you're really excited about having, from Ebron to Chase and some of these guys. And yet in a called play and practice, we still have to go through our progressions. We still have to allow for those things to occur to effectively play the position. And he knows that. And sometimes you just get a little bit excited because you want to see if you can't force a ball or get a ball into a guy. And I know that happens a lot. And he's really challenged those guys a bunch. Question about how much he's working and not working, the training camp again, the uniqueness of this camp. with a couple of days where you've had an off day and potentially a half day, some of those type of things have lined up perfectly for him to be able to still have the time off and not really miss work. And so that's been really good. In training camp in years past, you might have seen that, he'd totally have a day off where you'd see him off to the side. Some of that really just hasn't occurred because the off days have kind of fit right in at the right moment. So, again, we'll always be on somewhat of a pitch count. I think his push for individual periods and the pre-practice stuff and the post-practice things with the wide receivers is where, I just think he and I and Coach Canada just need to keep an eye on those extra reps that occur outside of between the lines in a period.
Aditi Kinkabala, NFL Network.
Hey, Randy. One of the things that I'm sorry, I'm outside and it's pouring. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
One of the things that Ben has said is that for the last, 15 years, he's dealt with this partially torn tendon and some twinges, some pain. And now he has absolutely no pain. Well, this is an unbelievably tough guy who always plays through pain. How can you tell? I mean, is it obvious to you that he's actually playing without pain? Is there any discernible difference in what he's giving you because of that?
Yeah, I would just have to go on just things that I would have recognized and maybe not paid a whole lot of attention to. Twisting of his wrist, maybe because his forearm might be a little sore, winding up of his shoulder, loosening, kind of like shaking his arm to his side. Things that when I really put my mind to it and think about it, I have seen, and I've seen it in meetings, and I've seen in meetings where he's come in and actually spend a meeting just twisting his wrist, and maybe there's giving you some comfort in your elbow forearm type area. I know when the guys generally get a little bit tired arm, that's a little different. But I do think that there were signs, and then you could see some of those. But like I said, if you would have ever asked him, he's going to definitely, you already know the answer to the question. He's going to say, "No, I'm fine. I'm fine." But I mean, he's been fine with a bad shoulder. He's been fine with a bad knee. I've seen him play and perform under all those adverse situations of not being perfectly healthy. But it is different now. And I do ask him when we come off the field, I just point blank ask, I said, "Ben, how do you feel today?" And he says, "I feel fine." And when he says it, I don't notice anything that would lead me to believe that he doesn't. And I would hope that just our relationship to this point, for as long as we've been together, that he would never feel like he would have to keep that from me if he didn't feel fine. So, and like I said, he's not on the injury report. He's not on an injury thing. I mean, we're just talking about him getting back, and it's so exciting that he's got himself back to this spot.
Joe Rutter, Trib.
Yeah, Randy, just kind of touch on previously. So was there any hesitancy at all to let him go strong those first 3 days and do every practice last week?
Not necessarily, because we talked about it. We've taken this ramp up period that was collectively bargained, and we've stuck to it from a rep count standpoint. We've limited some of the fluff in a practice. Again, where I have to be careful, and I think for the good of all quarterbacks, is those extra throws that you get in a day that you just really don't count. That post-practice working with Ebron, pre-practice, throwing with Pouncey, just trying to hit the goalpost because they're competing against each other. Those kind of general things. You want to keep a pitch count on as best possible. And like I said, I don't think that would have ever been an issue just because of the way we've kind of ramped up.
Mike Pizzuta, DVE.
Randy, have you had any non-football conversations with your guys, or do you anticipate having any in the wake of baseball and basketball canceling games and some NFL teams canceling practices this week?
I really haven't I like to come in early. I got a work day and kind of stick to my routine from a work standpoint. Um, you know, I guess I understand, a little bit about what's going on, but I really haven't had time to think about it. And I don't mean that in an insensitivity way, but if any of the players would like to talk, man, I would love to listen. I'd love to keep growing and learning more myself.
Brian Batko, Post Gazette.
Hey, Randy, how are you?
Good.
With Derek Watt, from what you've seen out of him so far, can you use him, or can he be as involved in the running game and as helpful as Rosie Nix was a few years ago? Are there some different things you can do with Watt, skills he might possess that Nix didn't, and just how much can he help you guys, especially in short yardage situations where you struggled last year?
Really good question, because Derek is a very sharp player. He's the only probably time he's ever missed is now. I don't know what his practice things were when he was with the Chargers, but one of the things that was attractive about Derek was he had never missed a game. He was always available. He was asked to do a handful of things in the run and the pass. I think he does have flexibility to do both. I do think he definitely has the toughness and he has the intelligence to do and maybe be asked to do a lot of things. So there is a lot of excitement for that. I realized that, until we get him back full, we've been just kind of, working with him in individual type drills and things like that. And like I said, I'll be excited when he's ready to go.
Chris Adamski, Trib.
Hey, Randy, you have, 3, 4, 5 running backs who make legitimate claims to being part of the offense. Is it important for you to try to get all of them some sort of role, or is it a matter of just James is the guy and other people fill in, and how do you try to keep them all involved?
Well, I mean, we got to keep them all involved for sure. Each one of them can bring something really unique skill set to the table. James is when James is healthy, and he's as good as any back in that we've had here. And I'm so excited about James's off season. I wish we would have had a chance to be together a little bit in OTAs and during that time. But he's put himself in that position. He's capable of being all three down back. I love where Benny Snell is right now in his growth in his second year. Those kind of things that just common growth that happens over the course of one season. And he's put himself in a really unique situation now because he's really in good condition, and his usefulness and his knowledge is getting better every day. You guys know Jalen. Jalen's very versatile, run, pass, all those type of things. And Ant is new, and Kay White, and both those guys give us that little bit of juice and that speed and that quickness and all that type of thing. So very excited where they're at as a group. And like I said, if we have to specialize, in game, we will do so to put each guy in the best position to give us the best chance for success. But my expectation would be James would be capable of doing all three downs, and let's go work.
Mike Asti, Pittsburgh Sports Now.
Hey, Randy. We talked with Eric Ebron the other day, and he mentioned that he would love to see 2 tight end sets all the time, but obviously that can't happen. But just going back to Ben, can you just speak on what a player like Ebron being there would even mean to Ben at this point in his career? Ben coming back, and that's separate from adding Eric Ebron, but having a tight end like Eric Ebron may even obviously will be an extra aid to Ben even further, especially coming off of an injury and being an older quarterback now.
Well, Eric's exciting because he's a been there, done that guy in this league. He is very skillful set for obviously it blends itself to the passing game. He's can be a mismatch concern for selected linebacker types, strong safety types. We've been tried to be very intelligent about where we put them and not overdo it too quickly to where he can't play fast. And again, if there was a guy that you would have loved to have OTAs in minicamp, that would have been very helpful and useful for him, as well as their connection, him and Ben. But he does have a skill set that is very unique. He can catch football. That I can promise you. I mean, he can snatch a ball. He's pretty strong at the catch point. He can separate, and there's a lot there to be excited about.